Second phase of Hamas-Israel prisoner exchange deal completed. South Korea to release preliminary report of Jeju air crash by Monday. Hello, good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Daniel Bahardin and you're watching World Today. Hamas has released 4 female Israeli soldiers held in Gaza and 200 Palestinian prisoners have been released from Israeli jails as part of the ceasefire agreement that halted more than 15 months of war. The releases on either side were welcomed by cheering crowds of Palestinians in the city of Ramallah, in the occupied West Bank and by Israelis in Tel Aviv. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, confirmed on Saturday that it had transferred 128 Palestinian detainees to Gaza and the West Bank, while local authorities handled the release and transfer of the remainder, completing the second exchange under the deal that took effect last Sunday. The 4 Israeli soldiers were marched onto a podium where they wave and smile, and they were then led into ICRC vehicles which transported them to Israeli forces. Later on Saturday, buses carrying released Palestinian prisoners were seen departing from the Israeli Offa military prison in the occupied West Bank. Israel's prison service said all 200 prisoners were released in line with the list published by Hamas. Meantime, displaced Palestinians heading back to the Gaza Strip's war-ravaged north found themselves blocked with their belongings at an Israeli-controlled patch of land where troops stood on Saturday. The Netzarim corridor, as the area is known, is a 7-kilometer strip of land militarized by Israel that bisects Gaza from the Israeli border to the Mediterranean Sea and cuts off the north from the rest of the territory. Palestinian police prevented hundreds of displaced people from reaching the junction, where several Israeli tanks and armored vehicles were still blocking the road. Many had hoped to return home after a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war took effect last week, but found themselves stopped in their tracks.
احنا هون موجودين بالقرب من حج نتسريم، بنستنى السماح لنا بالعودة لبيوتنا ولأحلامنا، لأنه احنا لما نرجع مش حنرجع بس لبيوت، احنا في لنا ذكريات وفي لنا ناس كثير بنحبهم لسه موجودين هناك وحابين نرجع نحضنهم بعد شوق دام 470 يوم وأكثر كمان.
Almost 30% of the millions of Syrian refugees living in Middle Eastern countries want to return home in the next year following the fall of President Bashar al-Assad, up from almost none last year. The head of the United Nations UN's refugee agency said the shift is based on an assessment done by the UN in January, weeks after Assad was ousted by the opposition forces, bringing an abrupt end to a 13-year civil war that had created one of the biggest refugee crises of modern times.
We see a lot of people going back. Since the 8th of December, we've seen about 200,000 refugees from neighboring countries. We've seen 600,000 internally displaced people also go back.
Around 200,000 Syrian refugees have already returned since Assad fell. He added around 300,000 who fled back to Syria from Lebanon during the Hezbollah-Israel war in September and October, most of whom are thought to have stayed. Syria's civil war has left many of its major cities in ruins, services decrepit, and the vast majority of the population living in poverty. Syria remains under a harsh Western sanctions regime that effectively cuts off its formal economy from the rest of the world.
The next 12 months was
President Donald Trump concluded a hectic first week of his return to office with a visit to Las Vegas on Saturday, where he discussed his commitment to reducing taxes on tips, a pledge he made during his 2024 campaign in this key gambling and hospitality hub. Trump took the stage before cheering supporters at the Circa Resort and Casino in front of a large banner reading "No tax on tips" and said economic confidence was soaring in the United States.
Near the top of the agenda for our historic Republican majorities in Congress is to pass a massive tax cut for American workers and families. Last year, we campaigned across the pledge that I'm sure most of you didn't hear too much about, pledge to take the Trump tax cuts and make them permanent, and that's exactly what we're doing.
In Las Vegas, Trump's event was designed to highlight a pledge to end taxation of income from tips and overtime, a proposal he first made in June as he courted service workers in the presidential swing state of Nevada. The tip-heavy hospitality industry comprises more than a fifth of jobs. Trump promised to pursue an aggressive agenda of tax cuts if re-elected, which may face some hurdles even in a U.S. Congress controlled by his fellow Republicans. The United States Department of Defense has released photos that reveal military aircraft conducting 2 deportation flights to Guatemala early Friday. Each flight carried around 80 migrants as part of the Pentagon's response to President Trump's recent national emergency declaration. While military planes have been used for international relocations in the past, such as during the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan. According to a U.S. senior official, this is the first known instance in recent memory where they were used to deport migrants. The Pentagon plans to deport more than 5,000 migrants currently held in El Paso, Texas and San Diego, California using military aircraft. Additionally, 1,500 active duty troops, including 500 Marines, have been deployed to the U.S.-Mexico border following Trump's executive order. However, these troops are not expected to take on law enforcement duties, a defense official clarified. The British Museum has been partially closed since Friday afternoon following a sabotage of its technical systems, and certain areas remain inaccessible to the public on Saturday morning. A museum spokesperson said the disruption was caused by a former technical system contractor who had been dismissed last week. The individual reportedly entered the museum without authorization and disabled multiple systems. Police were called to arrest the suspect on site. As of Saturday morning, only the permanent galleries on the museum's ground and first floors are open to the public. Other sections, including the Silk Road Special Exhibition, will stay closed throughout the weekend. The British Museum is the latest cultural institution to experience technical sabotage in the country. In 2023, the British Library suffered a major cyber attack, which resulted in users' personal information being sold on the dark web. Coming up, Seoul court rejects second request to extend Yoon detention. South Korea will release by Monday a preliminary report on last month's Jeju airplane crash that killed 179 people, the deadliest air disaster on the nation's soil. According to the Transport Ministry, one area under investigation is what a role a bird strike played in the December 29 crash of Flight 7C2216 as it arrived at Muan International Airport from Bangkok. The ministry said the report will be sent to the International Civil Aviation Organization as well as the United States, France and Thailand. Seoul has been cooperating with investigators from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and France Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety. The ministry added that it will take several months to analyze and verify flight data and cockpit voice recordings, which stopped recording 4 minutes and 7 seconds before the crash, and communication recordings with the control tower. The ministry also said that it would conduct a separate analysis of the role of the concrete embankment that supported navigation antennas called localizers. The ministry said it would remove the embankment, which experts said likely made the disaster more deadly. A Seoul court on Saturday again turned down prosecutors' request for an extension of President Yoon Suk-yeol's arrest. A prosecution official said the Seoul Central District Court upheld its earlier decision to deny the request, citing similar grounds as the previous day's ruling. The special prosecution team submitted a fresh request to the court seeking an extension of the warrant until 6 February. However, the court rejected it, stating that it saw little need for the prosecution to supplement the investigation, which has been led by the Anti-Corruption Agency. The Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, CIO, transferred the case to the prosecution earlier this week as the agency lacks the legal mandate to indict a president. Requesting the extension, prosecutors cited the need to continue the investigation, including in-person questioning of Yoon, as the president has largely refused to cooperate with the probe. The court's rejection leaves the prosecution needing to decide whether to indict him before his release is required on Monday. India and Indonesia signed a number of agreements, including to boost maritime security cooperation and expand their relations yesterday. This comprehensive set of agreements was made during the visit of Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto to New Delhi. The Memorandum of Understanding MOU between the Indian Coast Guard and Indonesia's Maritime Security Agency Bakamla was one of the MOUs exchanged after talks between President Prabowo Subianto and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The deal, signed on maritime safety and security, aims to boost collaboration in crime prevention, search and rescue, and building up capabilities. Other MOUs were signed to increase cooperation in the fields of health, traditional medicine, culture, and digital technology. Modi described Indonesia as an important partner in the Indo-Pacific and ASEAN regions, saying the two countries were committed to maintain a rules-based order in these geographical areas. Meanwhile, Prabowo said his government would accelerate its economic partnership with India and prioritize cooperation over the long term. China is gearing up for its annual Spring Festival travel rush, the world's largest human migration, with authorities implementing measures to enhance services. The 40-day travel period, which began on 14th January, is expected to witness a record 9 billion passenger trips across the country as passenger needs evolve. Ministry of Transport Wang Yuchun said in terms of travel volume, the total will reach a historic record, and different modes of travel, including civil aviation, railways and self-drive road trips, will each set new records. The structure of passenger flows has also evolved, with an increasing number of travelers opting for tourism during the holiday. Additionally, the rise of self-drive trips and the expansion of travel modes have altered the transportation mix. Yesterday, China's railway system facilitated the transportation of 15.25 million passengers, while the total number of travelers utilizing highways, waterways and aviation reached more than 255,850,000 and 2.4 million respectively. China's aviation regulator said air travel has become a mainstream choice during the Spring Festival season, with flight volumes now consistently exceeding annual averages. Next in sports, Madison Keys wins first Grand Slam title at Australian Open. World number 7 Pearly Tan and Tina have become only the second Malaysian pair to reach the women's doubles final at the Indonesia Masters in Jakarta. Pearly Tina defeated South Korea's world number 146 Lee Yoo-woo Lee Yoo-lim 21-19, 21-16 in a semi-final clash that lasted 52 minutes at the Istora Senayan yesterday. The pair follow in the footsteps of Vivian Hu, Woon Kei-wei, who reached the final in 2011 and went on to claim Malaysia's only women's doubles title at the tournament. Pearly Tina will face South Korea's world number 29, Kim Hae-jeong Kong Hee-yong, in the final later today. Hae-jeong Hee-yong booked their place by defeating China's scratch pair Jia Yifan, Zhang Zhujian 21-17, 22-20. The Korean duo hold a psychological edge, having beaten the Malaysians in their only prior meeting at the India Open semi-finals in New Delhi last week. Meanwhile, national men's doubles pair men Wei Chong T Kai Hoon stepped into the final of the Indonesia Masters in style after surprising their seniors Aaron Chia Su Woi-yik in a rather lopsided semi-final last night. It took Wei Chong Kai Hoon just 31 minutes to defeat the Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024 Olympic bronze medalists 21-18, 21-15 in the semi-final action. The world number 13 pair is scheduled to face home favourites Fajar Alfian Muhammad Rian Adrianto, the world number 4 seeds in the final. Who became the fourth oldest first-time Grand Slam champion in the professional era, ended top seed Sabalenka's bid for a third straight Melbourne Park crown. Belarusian Sabalenka made a couple of double faults to drop serve in the opening game and look off colour in the early exchanges as Keys heaped pressure on the top seed with a dipping cross-court winner en route to a double break. The 19th seed rode her luck after a net court winner and went up 5-1 in 20 minutes before conceding a break with a wayward backhand before Sabalenka gifted her set point with a fourth double fault. Keys, who was hitting much harder than her opponent on both flanks, fired her 11th winner with a backhand down the line to clinch the opening set, but Sabalenka began to mix up her game in the next set and sliced her way through to level the match. Both players relied on their powerful serves and shot, making to remain level until 5-5 in the decider, but there was one final momentum shift as Keys produced blistering winners to claim the next 2 games and the biggest triumph of her career. Meanwhile, Finland's Harri Heliövaara and Brighton Henry Patton fought back from a set-down to win the Australian Open men's doubles title, defeating Italians Simone Bolelli and Andrea Vavasori 6-7, 7-6, 6-3. The victory gave Heliövaara and Patton their second Grand Slam crown after they triumphed at Wimbledon last year, while for the Italians, it was more heartbreak after losing both the Australian and the French Open finals last year. The Italian third seed started strongly, breaking serve in the opening game, and after failing to serve out the first set at 5-4, they prevailed in a thrilling tiebreak to win an 87-minute opening set. 6 seeds Heliövaara and Patton came out on top in a much shorter tiebreaker to force a third set, and after an early break allowed them to take a 3-0 lead. They saved 3 break points to hold serve and win after over 3 hours on court. Liverpool striker Cody Gakpo scored twice and created another goal as the hosts cruised to a 4-1 win over lowly Ipswich Town at Anfield last night to remain top of the Premier League. Dominic Szoboszlai broke the deadlock in the 11th minute as Ibrahim Konate picked him out in a pocket of space just outside the box, and the Hungarian midfielder cut back onto his left foot before stroking a shot into the bottom right corner. Mohamed Salah doubled Liverpool's lead in the 35th as Gakpo's cross found him at the back post and the Egyptian lashed the ball into the roof of the net from a very tight angle. Liverpool went in 3-0 up at the break after Szoboszlai's first-time shot was parried into the path of Gakpo, who fired home from close range after 44 minutes. Ipswich then were undone by a brilliant ball from the right by Trent Alexander-Arnold, which was met with a towering header from Gakpo in the 66th. A late surge from the visitors was rewarded when Ipswich defender Jacob Greaves headed home in the 19th minute to deny Liverpool a clean sheet in an otherwise dominant display. Manchester United winger Antony has joined La Liga side Real Betis on loan until the end of the season. The 24-year-old Brazilian signed for United from Ajax in August 2022 for £81.3 million, the second most expensive player in the club's history behind Paul Pogba. Antony has scored 12 goals in 96 appearances for United, but has only scored once in the Premier League since April 2023. United sources say the deal is covering a minimum of 84% of Antony's salary, which is over £100,000 per week. He remains under contract at Old Trafford until 2027. Antony started brightly under former United manager Erik ten Hag, also his previous boss at Ajax, by scoring 3 goals in his opening 3 league games. However, after failing to live up to his transfer fee, Antony has struggled for first-team opportunities and this season has featured in just 13 of United's 33 games in all competitions.
Sebuah program bual bicara santai berkaitan sukan.
Masih lagi bersama dengan kami berdua, saya Q Amril dan juga Jit Zulkifli akan bersama dengan anda untuk perbincangan komprehensif dalam planet sukan.
Mengupas topik-topik hangat dan isu-isu sukan.
Pasukan sokongan dia.
Satu fenomena baru. Suntikan semangat kemudahan sukan yang khusus.
Bersama atlet-atlet dan penggiat sukan negara. Planet Sukan. Setiap Jumaat 10.30 malam di TV1 dan saluran sukan RTM. Juga penseriaman langsung di RTM Click.
Up next, Nintendo to release Switch 2 this year. Shanghai's Yuyuan Garden was lit up with colourful lanterns on Thursday ahead of the Lunar New Year. A large snake lantern with a moving head was displayed in the main square, and lanterns of flowers, butterflies and mythical creatures decorated the vicinity. Park visitors enjoyed the festive atmosphere, with some wearing traditional outfits or cosplay.
第一次来这边的时候，我也是没想到这边的活动也是挺热闹，而且灯会也很漂亮。对，走进来里面的氛围很好，而且人潮很多，就是走起来也是还蛮舒服，还蛮开心的。
Shanghai would also shimmer and shine, bathe in glorious scenic lighting from tomorrow until 4th February for the Chinese New Year celebrations. The city will be lifted up visually by spectacular lighting displays across key areas such as the Bund, North Bund and Lujiazui, along with other important landmarks. The scenic lighting will feature dynamic color-changing lights and gentle light flows in iconic locations, with the Bund banks showing a wonderful waterfall light display. Major buildings along the Huangpu River will also feature Chinese New Year themed videos on their media facades. Japan's Nintendo will launch the Switch 2 console, successor to its hit Switch device this year. The Kyoto-based gaming company did not release pricing for the new device and said it would provide more details at a Nintendo Direct event on 2nd April. The company said that existing Switch software will be usable on the new device, although some games may not be fully compatible. Consumers and investors have been waiting for details of the new console, which appears to closely follow the playbook established by the hybrid home portable Switch. The Switch 2 screen is larger, as are the overhauled detachable Joy-Con controllers that snap on, possibly with magnets, rather than sliding into position as before. Key will be the games, and Nintendo's 2-minute trailer also showed off a new version of the long-running Mario Kart series, both on the new console's built-in screen and on a TV. The previous installment of the game, Mario Kart 8, has sold more than 64 million copies. The Switch transformed Nintendo's fortunes following the poor performance of the Wii U console and has sold more than 145 million units. Nintendo has also extended the life cycle of the Switch, which launched in 2017, with hardware refreshers and hit games from franchises such as Super Mario and The Legend of Zelda. A German aerospace engineer celebrated setting a world record on Friday for the longest time living underwater without depressurization, 120 days in a submerged capsule off the coast of Panama. Rudiger Koch, 59, emerged from his 30-square-meter home under the sea in the presence of Guinness World Records adjudicator Susana Reyes. She confirmed that Koch had beaten the record previously held by American Joseph Dituri, who spent 100 days living in an underwater lodge in a Florida lagoon.
Well, I didn't have so much time to reflect. There was so much to do. But it is beautiful when things calm down and it gets dark and the sea is glowing. You sit here. I usually turn off all the lights, so I have only the sea as a source of a light. It is impossible to describe. You have to experience that yourself.
Koch's capsule had most of the trappings of modern life: a bed, toilet, TV, computer and internet, even an exercise bike. Located some 15 minutes by boat from the coast of northern Panama, it was attached to another chamber perched above the waves by a tube containing a narrow spiral staircase, providing a way down for food and visitors, including a doctor. Solar panels on the surface provided electricity, and there was also a backup generator. And that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, 4 Israeli soldiers, 200 Palestinians released under Gaza truce deal. Till then, I'm Daniel Bahardin. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum. Salam Malaysia Madani.